Back to episode 3 of the video log, and I thought I'd better sit down when I'm not out of breath if you checked out the previous installment. So here we are, week 3 in the books, and the physical progress has been exceptional so far. You know, I've lost quite a significant amount of both body weight and fat. I'm definitely looking the leanest I have in a very long time, and we hit a new low last week, 80.7 kilos. But we'll go through all the data and that side of things in a moment. But what I wanted to talk about was some of the things that I'm experiencing at the moment, which I think many of you who are competitors or anyone going through an extensive dieting phase will run into, and that is the adverse effects of a calorie deficit. So it's very much a catch-22 with a contest prep. So we choose this sport of bodybuilding, which has many implications to our physical and mental health, and we choose also to give up a number of things. So one of the things that I'm experiencing at the moment is just a decrease in my cognitive function, so my ability to focus, to sustain concentration and to think clearly has really been impacted quite a bit. Even though I haven't lost a significant amount of weight, I'm definitely starting to notice that just day to day with my the tasks that I'm doing and my ability to produce the same volume of work as a result of just eating less food, losing weight. It's definitely starting to become more prominent now. So yeah, let's talk about that. With a contest prep, it's very common for bodybuilders and anyone who goes into a contest prep, when they start out, they develop all this structure and routine, to make sure that they're ticking all the boxes they need to tick, which is a good thing. That's what we have to do to see, progression in, our physique. But at the same time, we become extremely, output orientated. We want to be doing a lot of tasks, and this is because we've been afforded more time because we're no longer, wasting time thinking about food and becoming inefficient with things. We've just got more structure, which means we have more time to focus on other things. Now, the drawback of that is that we then have more time to focus on other things, which can mean food. And to avoid the food focus, what a lot of people will begin doing, myself included, is, like I mentioned, become extremely task orientated, and we want to be always doing things and always getting things done, which is a good thing. But at the same time, we want to increase the output, but we've got a decreased capacity to do those kind of things. The brain fog, the lack of concentration, the lethargy, the irritability. We just simply can't uphold the same level of work that we previously did, and I'm definitely starting to experience this now. So it's a huge issue. at the moment, especially given that I, have a pretty demanding job, mentally, not so much physically, but, I need to be thinking, I need my brain to create content, to coach, to deal with people's emotions, and to make sure that I'm, effective in the workplace, in the company. But I'm just finding that I'm not as effective as I used to be. It's taking me twice as long to do things, and that causes more stress. And obviously, with more stress, mentally, we start to see, this detriment our recovery and our ability to cope with the stress that's imparted through the diet. So, and whilst this is useful information, it's almost meaningless if we don't have any tangible, actionable strategies to deal with it. So, what I'm now focusing on doing is reducing some of the workload that I have, prioritizing things. So if I have to have certain things done by a deadline, well, that becomes a priority. All the superfluous work that I had been doing or wanted to be doing because of enjoyment and all these kind of things, we just have to put that stuff on the back burner for now, whilst I, am not in a position to do it. So prioritizing things is number one. Number two, I think that it's useful to then recognize when you need your brain and when you need to be at your best, so to speak, outside of training and all the rest of it, and placing, the work that you have during those times. So for me, I'm eating most of my calories at night, which means I'm doing most of my work at night now. I used to do a lot in the morning, but I've found that this has been just a waste of time because, I am a little bit more lethargic, I'm tired, I'm a little bit more irritable because I'm fasting, and not many of you will be in a position that I am to be able to shuffle things around like this, but I think, if you apply that to your own circumstances, it can really go a long way. And number three, to deal with this lack of focus, energy, and just the decrease in our ability to do things, to live, we need to prioritize rest, sleep, and stress management. So I've been focusing on getting a nap in each day. I've also been making sure that my walks are both enjoyable and a time for me to relax. So I'm ticking 2 boxes: cardio, but I'm also listening to music, which I find extremely therapeutic. And I think that we can implement some other strategies to help us unwind and relax. And removing social media on the weekends is something I'm trying to do. Very hard with my job, but I am trying to down regulate the amount of output there, so that I have a greater capacity to live and uphold the quality of life that I need to make sure that this process doesn't become overly intrusive to those around me. So yeah, that's a little bit about where I'm at with things. I think the deficit dilemma is very real. It's a huge catch-22 of a contest prep, and I hope that was informative. So let's head across and check out the data now, and we'll see why my contest prep is taking a little bit of a turn. All right, guys, so here is the week just gone, and as you can see, last week's weekly average was 82.1. We had a pretty smooth week in terms of the weights coming down at quite a consistent and rapid rate. As you can see there, 81.7, my scales died, 81.4, 81.2, 80.7 with a low, and then after the refeeds, weight climbed back up as expected. So the original plan with Berto was to bring things up in terms of my intake once I hit the low 81s, but obviously we dipped below that, and the weekly average was 81.3. So he's pulled the nutrition up. We've got an increase in calories in the form of carbohydrates. So I've got an extra 75 grams of carbs on my low days and an extra 50 grams of carbs on my high days. So that is definitely going to help with everything in terms of training, my ability to adhere, obviously, and then all of the other things I spoke about previously in this video. So no complaints with the increase in food, but we're just slowing down the rate of loss by, closing the deficit, so to speak. And things will trend pretty nicely. We want to continue to lose as much fat as possible whilst eating as much food as possible at the moment, before we then, start digging again into the next phase of the diet. So Training last week was a little bit all over the place in terms of my schedule. Obviously, I had a few rest days in between my sessions. Not ideal, but we just had to make it work, and I did get the 5 sessions in throughout the week. And this was the first week that I got all of my cardio in, all my prescribed cardio. So I was really, really wrapped with that. And one of my focuses during this week was to really tighten things up and increase the accuracy at which I'm reaching my targets, which are both my calories, macros, and the cardio. So everything coming along really well. Training's trending just nicely. Adding a little bit of weight here and there. Adding a few reps. Also to a lot of my accessory work. So I'm very pleased with the product that we're producing at this stage, and it's really been smooth sailing, and I've been able to get away with quite a bit in terms of the flexibility of the approach I've taken to the contest prep so far, and I will probably continue with that amount of flexibility, especially now as the goal is to slow things down a little bit. But moving forward, I know that we're going to have to tighten the reins and become a little bit more soldier-like and automatic in how we tick the boxes we need to be ticking, as opposed to focusing as much on the flexibility and the enjoyment of the prep and the diet and everything in between. So that's it for now. It's been a really, really good few weeks. The changes I've seen, as you guys will start to notice in some of the footage, has been pretty considerable. There's striations left, right, and center. The abs have come in really, really quickly, getting tighter and tighter through my waist, and there's even some resemblance of a Christmas tree. So we're on track. 8 months to go. It's pretty scary to think that I have 8 months of this prep left. I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought about a 9-month prep, but I'm really, really glad at this stage that I've made that decision to commit to a much more sustainable and slower approach to the prep, one which I know will benefit me hugely in terms of the physique that we present on stage, as well as keeping everything in my life in check. As I mentioned, it's a huge priority of mine. So that is it for today, guys. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you found it informative. Until next week, I'll speak to you then.